first grader for pointing a chicken strip at a teacher in the cafeteria. The 8-year-old was fooling around with a friend at lunch last week when he pointed a breaded chicken finger at a teacher and then said, "Pow, pow."
Pointed a folded piece of paper like this one, shaped like a gun, and told his classmates he was going to kill them during a game of cops and robbers.
If this isn't a warning sign, then what is it?
This Virginia high school student spent a month out of classes, originally sent home for dyeing his hair blue.
A high school honor student from Michigan could be expelled later today in a school board hearing. 17-year-old Jeremy Hicks wore a Scottish bagpiper's outfit to his junior prom that included a plaid kilt, a feathered hat, and a traditional knife known as a skein dhu.
This T-shirt landed a high school student in court. She wanted to start an anarchy club.
The little time bombs that are out there ticking, waiting to go off, and there are many of them in every community.
Students in at least 7 different states have been suspended or arrested for talking about or planning plots of their own.
It's almost like guerrilla warfare. You don't know from which direction the enemy will be coming.
Having a well-conceived and strictly enforced dress code can dramatically improve the safety of a school and can ensure a positive learning environment for everyone. As this student's appearance demonstrates, having a lax policy about dress makes it easy for a student to conceal a weapon and makes it difficult to identify intruders on campus. A dress code can reduce weapons violations, relieve tensions between gangs, reduce disciplinary infractions, and generally improve the atmosphere of the school. Our policy requires that students tuck in their shirts, making the belt line visible at all times. Our students may not wear baggy pants or colors and insignias that are commonly associated with gang activity. This policy was a collaborative effort.
Yes, our children were indeed something to fear. They had turned into little monsters. But who was to blame? All the experts had an answer.
Angry, heavy metal subculture. Where were the parents?
Violent movies.
South Park.
Video games.
Television.
Entertainment.
Satan.
Cartoons.
Doom.
Society.
Toy guns. Drugs.
Shock rocker. Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson has canceled the last 5 dates of his U.S. tour out of respect for those lost in Littleton. But the singer says artists like himself are not the ones to blame.
This is perhaps the sickest group ever promoted by a mainstream record company.
After Columbine, it seemed that the entire focus on why the shootings occurred was because the killers listened to Marilyn Manson. 2 years after Columbine, Manson finally returned to Denver.
The Ozfest at Mile High Stadium brings shock rocker Marilyn Manson to Denver tomorrow.
There were protests from the religious right. But I thought I'd go and talk with him myself.
When I was a kid growing up, music was the escape. That's the only thing that had no judgments. You know, you can put on a record and it's not going to yell at you for dressing the way you do. It's going to make you feel better about it.
Some will be so brash to ask if we believe that all who hear Manson tomorrow night will go out and commit violent acts. The answer is no. But does everybody who watches a Lexus ad go and buy a Lexus? No, but a few do.
I definitely can see why they would pick me, because I think it's easy to throw my face on a TV because I'm, in the end, sort of a poster boy for fear. Because I represent what everyone's afraid of, because I do and say what I want.
If Marilyn Manson can walk into our town and promote hate, violence, suicide, death, drug use, and Columbine-like behavior, I can say, not without a fight you can't.
The two byproducts of that whole tragedy were violence and entertainment and gun control. And how perfect that was the two things that we were going to talk about with the upcoming election. And also then we forgot about Monica Lewinsky, and we forgot about the president was shooting bombs overseas, yet I'm a bad guy because I've sang some rock and roll songs. And who's a bigger influence, the president or Marilyn Manson?
Do you know,
I'd like to think me, but I'm going to go with the president.
Do you know that the day that Columbine happened, the United States dropped more bombs on Kosovo than any other time during that war?
I do know that, and I think that that's really ironic, you know, that Nobody said, well, maybe the president had an influence on this violent behavior. No, because that's not the way the media wants to take it and spin and turn it into fear, because then you're watching television, you're watching the news, you're being pumped full of fear. There's floods, there's AIDS, there's murder. Cut to commercial. Buy the Acura, buy the Colgate. If you have bad breath, they're not going to talk to you. If you got pimples, the girl's not going to fuck you. And it's just this, it's a campaign of fear and consumption. And that's what I think that it's all based on, is the whole idea that keep everyone afraid and they'll consume. And that's really as simple as it can be boiled down to.
Right. If you were to talk directly to the kids at Columbine or the people in that community, what would you say to them if they were here right now?
I wouldn't say a single word to them. I would listen to what they have to say, and that's what no one did.
I'm Nicole Schlief. And I'm Amanda Lamontagne.
And you went to Columbine?
Yes.
And you were with Eric and Dylan in their class?
Yeah, we were in their bowling class.
You were in their bowling class?
Yeah.
What's bowling class?
It's just an elective you can take for a gym credit.
Where's the educational value of this?
I guess there isn't really any.
There's not.
Is there any?
Yeah, I learned how to bowl a lot better. Yeah. That's for sure.
What were Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold like?
Weird.
Yeah.
I mean, not very social.
I didn't really know who they were. Yeah.
Not very social. Just kind of kept to themselves.
How good of bowlers were Eric and Dylan?
When we played them, all I remember is they were just like crazy. They would just like chuck it
down there,
throw the ball down there. Didn't really care too much about how they bowled.
They didn't really care about their scores.
What were the suspects doing the morning of attack? I told you that I'd heard that they were bowling. That's the only thing that I'm aware of.
So did Dylan and Eric show up that morning and bowl 2 games before moving on to shoot up the school? And did they just chuck the balls down the lane? Did this mean something?
Well, I guess they went to their favorite class.
Why wasn't anyone blaming bowling for warping the minds of Eric and Dylan to commit their evil deeds? Was it not just as plausible as blaming Marilyn Manson? After all, it was apparently the last thing they did before the massacre. But wait a minute. There's lots of bowling going on in other countries. And don't they listen to Marilyn Manson in Germany, the home of sinister goth music?
Zum Gothic Festival.
Don't they watch the same violent movies in France?
No.
Most of the violent video games are from Japan. Many people in America believe that it's the breakup of the family unit that's caused so many wayward youth to turn to violence.
I'll just save you the trouble. I'll run away and kill myself. How'd you like that? You can't keep me here.
But statistics show that there are more broken homes and divorce in Great Britain than in the U.S.
It's official. Fergie's marriage has ended.
Liberals contend that it's all the poverty we have in America that causes all this violence. But the unemployment rate in Canada is twice what it is here. Of course, most people say it's because we Americans have a violent history, a violent past. Cowboys and Indians, the Wild West, a history of conquering and bloodshed. Well, if that's all it takes to end up with such a violent society like we have in America, how do you explain this? Yet in spite of all this, how many people are killed by guns each year? In Germany, 381. In France, 255. In Canada, 165. In the United Kingdom, 68. In Australia, 65. In Japan, 39. In the United States, 11,127.
But that to me brings up an important question. Then what is so different about Americans? Are we homicidal in nature? Because in Europe, in Australia, Most other free world countries, they don't have this. They don't have people who snap and go on murderous rampages.
Well, no, they're just like us. I mean, they have the occasional person that snaps and kills a lot of people. Or how about a British soccer riot? Those aren't Quakers there.
Every time that I bring up comparisons with other free world countries, what I hear is, oh, our culture is so different. We're so different. And as you said, they have violent video games, they have violent movies, they have alienated youth. They, like us, don't have prayer in schools. What is so radically different? What is it about us?
What is it?
What is it?
What is it?
What is it? I don't know.
Now it's time for a brief history of the United States of America. Hi, boys and girls, ready to get started? Once upon a time, there were these people in Europe called pilgrims, and they were afraid of being persecuted. So they all got in a boat and sailed to the New World where they wouldn't have to be scared ever again.
Oh, I'm so relaxed. I feel so much safer.
But as soon as they arrived, they were greeted by savages, and they got scared all over again. So they killed them all. Now, you'd think wiping out a race of people would calm them down, but no. Instead, they started getting frightened of each other. Witch! So they burned witches. In 1775, they started killing the British so they could be free. And it worked, but they still didn't feel safe. So they passed a Second Amendment which said every white man could keep his gun. I loves my gun. Loves my gun. Which brings us to the genius idea of slavery. You see, boys and girls, the white people back then were also afraid of doing any work. So they went to Africa, kidnapped thousands of black people, brought them back to America, and forced them to work very hard for no money. And I don't mean no money like I work at Walmart and make no money. I mean $0. Nothing. Not a zip. Doing it that way made the USA the richest country in the world. So did having all that money and free help calm the white people down? No way. They got even more afraid. That's because after 200 years of slavery, the black people now outnumbered the white people in many parts of the South. Well, you can pretty much guess what came next. The slaves started rebelling. There were uprisings, and old master's heads got chopped off. And when white people heard of this, they were freaking out and going, I want to live. Don't kill me, big black man. Well, just in the nick of time came Samuel Colt, who in 1836 invented the first weapon ever that could be fired over and over without having to reload. And all the southern whites were like, yeehaw! But it was too late. The North soon won the Civil War and the slaves were freed. Yep, they were free now to go chop all the old masters' heads off. And everybody was like, oh no, we're gonna die. But the freed slaves took no revenge. They just wanted to live in peace. But you couldn't convince the white people of this. So they formed the Ku Klux Klan. And in 1871, the same year the Klan became an illegal terrorist organization, another group was founded, the National Rifle Association. Soon politicians passed one of the first gun laws, making it illegal for any black person to own one. It was a great year for America, the KKK and the NRA. Of course, they had nothing to do with each other, and this was just a coincidence. One group legally promoted responsible gun ownership, and the other group shot and lynched black people. And that's the way it was all the way to 1955, when a black woman broke the law by refusing to move to the back of the bus. White people just couldn't believe it. Huh? Why won't she move? What's going on? Man, all hell broke loose. Black people everywhere started demanding their rights, and white people had a major freaky fear meltdown, and they were all like, run away! Run away! And they did. They all ran fleeing to the suburbs where it was all white and safe and clean. And they went out and bought 250 million guns and put locks on the doors, alarms in the houses, and gates around the neighborhoods. And finally, they were all safe and secure and snug as a bug. And everyone lived happily ever after.
Or did they?